Good morning. I'm now going to call the August 25th, 2023 San Diego County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As a reminder, according to the board rules and procedures, audience members shall not whistle, clap, stomp feet, or anything that disrupts the proceedings. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor Desmond. Here. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Here.
Chairwoman Vargas.
All right. The only item on the agenda today is for the special meeting is the ratification of the proclamation of the countywide local emergency, unincorporated and incorporated areas of San Diego County regarding impact of Tropical Storm Hilary. I will now hand the floor over to our county team for a presentation to give us an update. But before I do the update, I want to just say thank you. I want to thank our Chief Administrative Officer and our Office of Emergency Services for coordinating the response and readiness for the historic weather event that moved through our county on Tropical Cyclone Hilary. We had, I think, 2 different press conferences, and the first one was, trying to get information and get everything out there. But then the second one, the follow-up, was right after the storm, and I just have to say that a lot of folks were like, oh, there was so much done and the storm wasn't as bad. And I said, thank God that is the conversation that we're having. And I just wanted to say thank you because people saw what happened on the last day when we did the day we did the press conference and what happened afterwards. But I don't know how much folks know about all the work that you did leading up to that. And it was just phenomenal. And the way you coordinated with our 18 cities, and ensuring that we did all of the pre-work, and I know you're going to share some of this with your PowerPoint, so I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but I really want to say thank you because the most important piece of the work that you do is the prevention piece, and we can't control Mother Nature, but we can control what we do, and what you did was exceptional, so appreciate that. And then I also want to thank the public for their cooperation. We shared the information, people stayed home, SDG&E was fantastic as well for making sure that they kept everybody informed, and there was some challenges, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I just wanted to make sure that I shared that information with the community and with all of you. So thank you for that. So I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Good morning, members of the board. On August 19th, the Chief Administrative Officer of the County of San Diego issued a proclamation of local emergency for the entire San Diego County operational area in response to Tropical Storm Hilary. Government Code Section 8630B requires that the Board of Supervisors ratify proclamations of local emergency within 7 days of it being issued. With me today is Director of the county's Office of Emergency Services, Jeff Toney. He'll provide a more in-depth overview of our request for your board to ratify the proclamation for the entire operational area. Jeff?
Thank you, Holly, and good morning. Around midnight on August the 20th, the county was impacted by Tropical Storm Hilary, a storm that had weakened from a Category 4 hurricane originating in the eastern Pacific. It was the first tropical storm warning issued in county history, and it produced significant rainfall and high winds causing flooding, debris flows, and downed trees. Rainfall totals generally range from 2 to 7 inches throughout the county, with the highest total of 7.38 inches in Ranchita, and the strongest wind gust was 84 miles per hour at Black Mountain. By midnight on August the 21st, most of the rainfall and strong winds had moved north, impacting other Southern California counties. On August 19th, before the storm made landfall, Governor Newsom proclaimed a state of emergency in California and prepositioned resources and equipment throughout Southern California. Later that evening, our Chief Administrative Officer proclaimed a local emergency for the County of San Diego. In the following days, the cities of San Marcos, San Diego, and Chula Vista proclaimed local emergencies. The La Jolla and Los Coyotes tribal nations also proclaimed emergencies. Per Government Code Section 8630, the Board of Supervisors is required to ratify the local proclamation within 7 days of being issued. Ratification of this proclamation will provide legal immunities for emergency actions taken by local government and disaster service workers, will allow the county and other local governments to pursue state and federal disaster assistance, will provide flexibility in local procurement and contracting, and allow officials to take the necessary steps to protect and preserve public health and safety. On August 17th, the Emergency Operations Center activated at a level 3, its lowest level, in response to the Coyote fire in Potrero. Once the fire was under control and all evacuations lifted, the Emergency Operations Center quickly pivoted to storm response and raised the activation level to a level 2. 23 other city jurisdictions, special districts, and tribal nations activated their emergency or department operations centers for the response. Daily operational area calls were held to coordinate with county partners. The Red Cross opened 2 emergency shelters, one in San Marcos and the other in Chula Vista, in case of storm-related evacuations. The demand for sandbags across the county was very high, and County OES submitted a mission task to Cal OES for an additional 100,000 bags. These were delivered to the Department of Public Works headquarters in San Marcos, and 9 cities picked up supplies for their residents. Sandbag distribution continues today to replenish supplies throughout the county. OES also activated its Emergency 211 contract that provided non-emergency storm-related information and referrals to inclement weather sheltering. Given the rare and historical nature of this storm, it was important to communicate frequently to the public and alert them to the dangerous impacts before and during the event. OES sent a county-wide wireless emergency alert on August 19th prior to the arrival of the storm. The National Weather Service issued 5 flash flood warnings and 1 tornado warning during the storm. Our Joint Information Center was activated, and they produced 6 press releases and 19 social media posts. 2 press conferences were held with local partners, and 10 Alert San Diego campaigns were sent. San Diegans responded to the alert and warnings and public outreach. The day prior to Hillary's arrival, the SD Emergency website was visited 277,000 times. The SD Emergency mobile application was downloaded over 32,000 times, and we received over 52,000 new Alert San Diego registrations. 211 received 9,384 calls during the activation for storm-related information and information about the inclement weather shelter program. The county's unincorporated inclement weather and expanded program housed 649 people in 413 rooms between August 19th and the 21st. Now that the storm response has ended, recovery becomes the main area of focus. In our emergency proclamation, the county requested a major federal disaster declaration and California Disaster Assistance Act funding. County OES is working with all local jurisdictions to collect initial damage estimates, which will be submitted to Cal OES by the end of today. It is not uncommon for jurisdictions to locate additional damages in the days and weeks ahead, and we will continue to submit any damages to the state. As of yesterday, the county-wide damage estimate is $3.9 million, with unincorporated costs at $1.65 million. As we stand today, there is uncertainty on the level of state or federal assistance San Diego County may receive. Currently, there is no public or individual assistance granted to county jurisdictions or residents. Our estimated damages currently fall below the FEMA per capita threshold that would make us eligible for much of the federal assistance available during disasters. To qualify, we would need to show municipal damages countywide of approximately $14.6 million. We may be eligible for California Disaster Assistance Act funding, which could reimburse jurisdictions up to 75% of eligible disaster costs. And we are currently undergoing that process for the winter storms. This funding is available at the discretion of the governor, and again, does not provide assistance to individuals, but to local governments for their response costs and damages. In the coming days and weeks, we will continue to assess storm damages and impact and pursue all available avenues for assistance. I will now turn the presentation back over to Holly.
Thank you, Jeff. The recommendation today is for the board to ratify the proclamation of the existence of a countywide local emergency for the unincorporated and incorporated areas of San Diego County. The proclamation made by the Chief Administrative Officer of the County of San Diego, acting as the Director of Emergency Services, on January 24th, 2023, on August 19th, 2023, and find that there is a need for continuing the local emergency until it's no longer needed, subject to Government Code 8630 review requirements. And this concludes our presentation, subject to your questions.
Before I turn it over to the public for public comment, I wanted just to also mention that we do have a boiling water advisory board. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is all of it related to how well all of you do, especially as we're trying to address all of these emergencies that are taking place last minute. And so I want to make sure I share with folks that there was a boiling water issue by the Cal American Water Direct by the state regarding E. coli contamination. And the County of San Diego has been working closely with the state water agency and other local agencies in response to this situation. The water agency and the web posting indicates the issue could be tied to Hurricane Hilary and the recent weather events. And so I wanted to just note that for the record. And I also want to ask staff to find out if any additional state and federal disaster funds can be made available due to Hilary's impacts in the region and related to the boiling water advisory. And I think it's critical for us to make sure that we're receiving accurate and timely information from Cal American and the State Water Board, and have contacted the governor's office, have contacted Cal American, and we're going to, and the county team is, again, doing an exceptional job being on the front of this, working closely with school boards in our community and our parents. So I think what's really important is for folks to know that I know that there's still some questions exactly about what the impact is, the potential public health care issue and what that looks like. And so we're going to be briefing folks as this moves along, but really calling on Cal America and the State Water Board to provide information to our communities in a timely manner, because we need to make sure that we're capturing it in totality, especially about the health and economic impacts that it's having on our communities. I know that many of the restaurants were closed in Imperial Beach, and so I want to thank them for doing the right thing very, very quickly. But I know that this is impacting a community that has already been impacted by so many other things. And so in the meantime, we want to continue to remind those impacted communities to make sure that while the water advisory is in effect, that they should use bottled water and boiled tap water for drinking, brushing teeth, and to prepare and cook food. And when boiling water, bring it to one full rolling boil minute for at least a minute, and then allow it to cool before they drink the water. I also asked the public and the communities to please follow the guidelines for the water boil notice, and I want to just thank them for the cooperation. One last thing I think that's extremely important is that there is bottled water is very expensive, and so we're trying to make sure that we get as much bottled water available to the communities because this is, it shouldn't come out of their pockets, and so we're doing everything we can to coordinate that in those efforts as well. So thanks again to the storm response team, to the general public, county staff, cities, first responders, San Diego Gas and Electric, and nonprofits like the American Red Cross that were ready to take action on this issue and all these other issues that we're facing right now. Yeah. Did you have a comment?
Chairwoman, thank you. Recognizing there are health implications for the boil water orders, also economic implications that you mentioned, we will be posting on the county's website later today a survey for businesses to complete so that we can capture what those economic impacts are, and that will help us assess whether there is state or federal assistance available to those businesses. To be determined on that, but we do want to collect that information.
All right. With that, I'm happy to make a motion to approve this item, including recommendations 1 and 2, and then I'm going to open it up for the public. Thank you. All right. So, Clerk, can you go ahead and ask the speakers for the public to...
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 7 requests to speak on this item, 3 in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. I also note that we did not receive any e-comments on this item. Any members of the public that requested to speak by phone on this item, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers, starting with the individual in favor, followed by the individuals in opposition. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'd like to invite forward the following individuals: Robert Gurman, followed by Michael Brando, and Truth. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record.
Everybody loves me, that's okay. These guys love me. Okay, this is Truth, and I'm ready to blow away the lies like a hurricane twice in 1 week. How many drops of water does it take to declare an emergency? And how many fraudulent emergencies does it take for people to wake up and stop believing in lies of FEAR, false evidence appearing real? But why couldn't you guys wait until Tuesday for this fraud? Is there a deadline you have to meet for the check collection forms to the state? California Government Code Section 8630 only allows local emergencies, quote, when conditions of disaster or extreme peril to the safety of persons and property exist, end quote. Just like with COVID, no such circumstance existed. Fraud. Fraud that Helen proclaimed the same day as new scum who got his dictatorial orders from the federal government. Also credit to the executive director of San Diego's Office of Emergency Services, Chris Heiser, who said this.
We told you this was going to happen, and it didn't. We never let up on the perception that at any minute that storm could turn. The public that was willing to accept what we're saying and stayed home when we asked. So I thank the media that pushed it out.
Michael Workman also admitted to the Voice of San Diego that, quote, we have not heard of much damage, end quote. In real hurricanes, people can actually die. So this is an insulting mockery of death and destruction as well as general fraud. And here's some real science. When hurricane winds reach 39 miles per hour, it's called a tropical storm. And when a tropical storm wind speed is 74 to 95 miles per hour, it will have minimal damage at landfall. San Diego's predicted speed was a measly 50 miles per hour, which of course didn't even happen. Everybody knows these emergencies are only for two things: more powers and more dead dollars. But does everyone know how a hurricane is formed? It's the same as a fraudulent emergency with tons of hot air. Oh, here we go, Jim. Let's see if we can get you in here.
And don't go out and, touch our power line.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. Robert Gurman from Lakeside. I have a slide. There you go. This slide shows a 1977 single-engine plane executing touch and goes during the historical Tropic Storm Hillary. In October of 2021, a twin-engine plane crashed on approach to Gillespie. 2 fatalities, including one on the ground. Wind was a factor. In December of 2021, a jet crashed on approach to Gillespie Field. 4 fatalities. Rain and Rattlesnake Mountain were factors in this fatal crash. Gillespie is open 24/7. Gillespie Airport has a history of flooding, which equals wet runways, and they are narrow. The last 2 Gillespie Field Development Council meetings, flooding at the airport was discussed. Why this pilot decided to fly on a rainy, windy day during Hillary's presence, especially using the longest pattern around Rattlesnake Mountain over our homes, only he can answer. He does have the freedom to fly in America. Some pilots abuse this freedom. Gillespie Field is in an expansion phase for the purpose of encouraging larger jets to use Gillespie Field. This expansion, AKA strategic plan, is at the direction of the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority. A sustainable study should include an on-airport 724 San Diego County Emergency Response Unit with fire station at Gillespie Field. Thank you. Any questions? The diagram doesn't really show the rain pattern, but it was constantly raining. It was windy, and don't know why he was up there. People, aircraft were coming and going. Actually, they were getting out of town to get their aircraft out of the airport because of the conditions.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Michael, yes, another fake emergency, just like the 3.5 years of COVID fake emergency. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't be helped, they should, but one thing I want to comment on is the mass media, NBC7, all of these other local affiliates here. I don't see how any of this can't be construed as domestic terrorism because people were actually terrified. I had family members across the country contacting me because they thought San Diego was going to be wiped off the face of the earth. And there were other people saying the same thing. Also, I want to address misinformation. Nora, you're promoting misinformation today again. You said we can't control Mother Nature. It's actually being controlled. We've talked about this, geoengineering. Several days before this rain, there was a lot of spraying in the skies, the aerosolization of the atmosphere. Many people were noticing that too. And this brings into question what was going on in Maui as well. It wasn't a wildfire. Okay, on this item, sustainability goals. It says, contribute to the County of San Diego's sustainability goals by efficiently serving and reinforcing healthy communities. Well, if you're putting that on this item for this, you're actually contradicting yourself again because you're promoting this as part of sustainability goals. And again, all this is tied to the United Nations. I just want to say, too, I ran into Nathan Fletcher the other day, and I got to greet him. It was great seeing him. He looks healthy. I actually missed him. I missed him being here because he was transparent. We could see right through him.
Now we'll hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll start with our first caller.
Paul Henkin, this big emergency thing for the entire county at this time is overblown and needs to be rejected. The storm was several days ago and generally milder than forecast. Here, in fact, we did not see damaging winds or flood. There was a lot of rain, but that has happened before without an emergency proclamation. So, from my inland vantage point, why am I, the taxpayer, being asked to support a more or less recurring event? By now, you should have specific areas of concern and a rough draft estimate. Posting later today or whenever is not good. We should not have to wait for the meeting, and we should not be asked to sign a blank check. If conditions of extreme peril truly existed, the board could have called an emergency meeting under the Brown Act to ratify this and all. I see no reason for waiting to issue a non-specific declaration without publicizing a list of some or all of the actual damages. A lot of this, by the way, is because house insurers are fleeing the state because of the high cost. Glad you finally realized this. And by the way, in this time, you could have actually done a sound and light show with hired mourners and raindrops falling on our heads. Recital R2 says that conditions of extreme peril have risen in this county as a result of approaching Tropical Storm Hillary, which is forecast to create all sorts of havoc. It is 5 days after the storm. This section needs a rewrite.
Now hear from the next caller.
May I introduce to you the new prostitutes of our time. You will not recognize our world in a couple of years because of these whores who keep selling parts of themselves to the UN agenda, inventing reality and worshiping the wrong and evil. And you will not recognize yourselves if you keep selling parts of your own soul to fit in with them. These vile beings are literally lighting the world on fire. What's it going to take for humanity to stand up, united against them, and say, no fucking more. Leave us the fuck alone. Fear is the currency of control. Bankrupt these motherfuckers. Become fearless. I'm done.
Thank you. For the record, that speaker was Consuelo. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Man, I'm so glad you guys, got that sound going because, you know, nobody could hear. If you guys could go and do like a voiceover for the parts that were not heard, that would be great so people know what's being said. But what a great opportunity to get money, right? You guys, we love money and we love emergencies. And how cool is it that, you know, the own government, you know, that we have doing these things and planning these emergencies and, you know, just entities attached to them or, you know, making the weather like this. Because, like, what a great business opportunity, right? Because when we get contracts, like disaster relief or anything like close to that is so lucrative. So, I mean, I'm really happy that you guys are jumping on this opportunity. Now, let me tell you, I feel like we could meet that, you know, threshold of $14.6 million with FEMA because, you know, like, Nora, you're talking about boiling the water, right? And it's like we have to give people bottled water. You could give them, you know, everybody in the county maybe like 3 bottles of water if we get like Fiji, right? And so that'll, like, hit that cap where, you know, we can get those funds, you know, and you'll be legally immune from anything, which is great, right? I mean, I just love that. You guys don't have to worry about doing anything wrong when you're declaring this emergency. But yeah, so I was just wondering, I don't know, I mean, because we could also give them just some sewer water as well. I mean, we're already doing that. Should we be boiling that water too, or does that, like, take out too much of the sewer? I don't know, but who knows? Like, are you guys planning on another storm as well? Because, you know, I think that we could do some more damage and get some more money. I'm also wondering, did anybody collect the storm water? Because, I mean, imagine how much that would be. We could be giving that to the people so they don't even need to boil water, right? I mean, so, yeah, it's really good to see you guys. You know, Jim, you know, you're just right there.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. Any comments from my colleagues? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. First, I really want to thank our county team. You guys just did an amazing job. I think the chairwoman said it very well, but we got through this situation in large part due to extremely thoughtful and dedicated preparedness and just being ready. And so thank you for being ready for the worst. And I think we're very fortunate that we didn't experience the worst, but thank you for everything that you did and continue to do. So I really appreciate that work. I also really want to thank the people of San Diego County for stepping up. We had over 100,000 people actually open our email regarding the emergency, which is pretty extraordinary. Nearly half the people who received our emails opened them about the emergency, and a good quarter downloaded the app. So that's thank you to the people of our community who took initiative to be prepared and to you know, make sure that you had all the resources that you needed available to make it through and to weather the storm. So I really appreciate that. So again, just huge thanks. I actually had a couple of questions on the boil water emergency. Helen, I don't know whether it'd be best to address those to you or to Holly, or what would be the best way to, I'm getting a number of questions from constituents.
I would send them directly to OES.
Okay, great. So I will follow up with you all, and we have constituents who have a bunch of questions. I think just the main thing people are trying to better understand is what's the cause, and whether it's related at all to our stormwater infrastructure that I know we've really been focused on trying to repair, and you know what else we could be sort of thinking about in the future.
Let me add that we'll be working closely with DEHQ on all of that as well. So as one team.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much.
Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you very much for all the county did in putting the information out. And you know, preparedness really showed. And even though the storm didn't materialize as much as we thought, we were ready. And so I appreciate those efforts. And so great job. And I guess we need more sandbags next time. But it's lessons learned, and we'll move on and appreciate all the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo my colleagues in thanking staff for all the great work. I mean, what a contrast between what we did here and, unfortunately, what happened in Hawaii. You know, every time we go through this, there's always lessons to learn. Yeah, it's still rather fresh, but are there any did we learn any lessons about how we could improve to be even more effective moving forward? You know, we still are in the heart of fire season, and are there any lessons that we learned that maybe would translate moving forward with the fire season?
Thank you for that question, Supervisor Anderson. With each disaster, particularly when we proclaim a local emergency, we do a pretty extensive, we call it a hot wash, and do a formal after-action report. We talk with our regional partners and all of our internal county departments. Usually after-action reports center around communication. There's always a way to improve communication. In almost every disaster after-action report you pick up, there's a way to improve communication with various partners. We touched on sandbags, having additional sandbags on hand. There will definitely be lessons learned, and we'll take those and be even better next time.
Thank you, everyone. With that, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
All right. Thank you. With that, this concludes our meeting, and we will see you next week.
The next meeting of the board will be Tuesday, August 29th at 9 a.m. Thank you.